Last week we went over 1 and 2 of authentic communication, and in our open discussion we found a couple things that maybe were could be worded differently as well as positioned differently to help. As I redid this today or yesterday when I did it, we tend to put things in some sort of order naturally. And so we'll read something and then later on down the line we'll say, well, that probably should have gone before that, or that could have gone before that. I wanted to clarify in regards to this anyway that authentic communication in this discussion, all of these things inclusively are in order at any time, because it's an open discussion about these tools in which we can use to communicate authentically. You hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay. So I changed a few things around in regards to the authentic communication always begins and ends with you. Knowing who you are and where you are is imperative. I think if there's one thing that I took away from last week's meeting, that's what the one thing that stood out the most to me anyway, was that it was very important. Matter of fact, a necessity. If you are to communicate authentically, that you must know these things. And you must know that the communication begins and ends with you. Have you guys had any thoughts since last week in regards to this? I know you were practicing a little bit at work. You guys have been kind of practicing with each other. These guys right here have been practicing a little bit. Can you share your experience with using the tools in which you've been given up to this point?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I remember there's been, a couple times that Eric in the past, a little bit, and myself coming in here struggled with just communication as a whole. Not even authentic communication, just any type of communication. And, like as I've been here and, been put in different positions to be able to be forced to communicate on different levels than I used to, has been an interesting journey for me. And with these tools and the tools that you have mentioned, and just everybody as a whole in the house, it's really helped me a lot. Mainly, through learning how to communicate with people and building relationships. Even at work, in a short period of time, I have to build a relationship with somebody that I don't know and be able to communicate effectively enough to help them. Whether they're cursing at me or being crazy, I have to, by the end of my conversation, have to be able to help them to, do the best that I can. And, reading through this the past couple of weeks has really helped me be on a different level there and be more conscious and more aware of that. And then bringing it here too, to be able to talk with Eric on a different level, because I know I struggle with communication sometimes too, and it's something that I always need to work on. And we've had an opportunity quite a few times this past week, me and Eric and Dave and really everybody here, just talking to each other and just trying to do things a little bit differently, that we can understand each other and there's no kind of like emotion behind what we're saying. It's just factual information from my experience, my perspective. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yes, I understand what you're saying, and repeat, and then we can have a clear, level-headed conversation of exactly what we're trying to get across without any emotions flaring up and people getting upset, because it's just a question, and with Eric too, it was cool to see that, like I walked in the house and was like, dude, what is this heater doing next to your bed? And whereas, before, I know he's trying, because before he'd be like, bro, and he might, do something like that. But instead, he just answered the question. I was like, oh, okay. It's simple as answering a question with a fact of your experience that can change the entire course of a conversation within, like just that answer. It's just an authentic answer. And within that, it makes all the difference in the world. If you shut down, I don't know facts, so I don't know where you're coming from, so I don't know your experience. And that continues on because then, like Jason would say, you don't give an authentic answer, you don't get an authentic response. So if you're not getting an authentic response, you don't know how to go forward from there. So the entire conversation from that point on is pretty much void and makes no sense, and it's based on a bunch of lies.
Yeah,
So if you're not communicating authentically from the very beginning, the rest of that conversation is wrong.
Yeah. We've together all come to realize that. But I mean, yeah, like you said, I mean, it went from 2 weeks prior to me responding with that emotion and kind of like having an expectation of them to already know, but that in itself is insanity. I mean, that's kind of where the emotion came from. It's like, why don't you know this? Why don't you know this? And really, I was wrong for that because I was having an expectation for them to be basically reading my mind because I wasn't communicating. I wasn't being authentic and saying where I'm at with it. This is the position that I'm kind of in with it and the way I'm viewing it, whether it's right or wrong. But I wasn't communicating at all, really. I was just having expectations of y'all to read my mind and know where I'm coming from and know where I'm at. Wasn't working too well.
And y'all have had to work together a little differently this week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 3 guys gone, 3 leaders gone, and that always puts you in a position, an internal fight, at least, with the desire to be a little bit less on guard as you would be as if I was walking through the house or Jake was walking through the house or this person was walking through the house, because you know each person. And then it's just been you guys. And so then you're all looking at each other like all wanting to kind of be on vacation too, but realizing and accepting who you are, where you are, and making you be aware and stand up, and then position yourself for obedience as you walk through it. And so one of the neat things that I have taken as I've heard you talk over the last week or two about your realization is where I think we talked a little bit about this last week, and we'll talk about it again tonight. It's that taking the breath before you respond is almost like sending out a signal to find out what your position is. So you have a realization at that moment of this is who I am, where I am. And it just happens naturally. And when you do that, it allows you to be authentic versus respond out of pain and crap that is buried deep down inside of us, and we're just used to responding that way. Where you're used to always being told that you've done something wrong or you're doing something wrong, you've been now put in a position to where everyone else is allowing you to explain to them your position, which is not a fighting position. It's hey, this is who I am, where I am. And it's not that it's okay or not okay, but it's always okay to position that because this is how you're seeing it. And then they can respond, or I can respond, or someone else can respond in such a way that then moves you towards growing rather than tears you down and puts you in a position of anger and resentment and fear, which is all the stuff you came in here with. You know, we don't not say things in communication because we all have roles and we all have responsibilities in our current position. And so we all have to say things, but it's how we say it and how we position the individual to receive what we're saying. Because ultimately, remember, it begins and ends with you. It's not about anybody else. So